Alright, your piping inspection code, inspection, repair, alteration, re-rating of the Inservice piping system, API 570, second edition, October 1998. API is American Petroleum Institute. We're on chapter 8, and that's repair, alteration, and re-rating of the piping system, the repairs and alteration principle, ASME B31.3 with the code of the piping system was built and filed with the authorization. All repair, alteration work must be done by a repair organization defined in section 3, may be authorized by an inspector prior to the commencement. Authorization, alteration work with the piping system may not be given without prior consultation with or approval of the pipe engineer. The inspector will designate the inspection hold of the appointment required during the repairing alteration sequence. The inspector may give the prior general authorization limit of the routine repair procedure if they provide the inspector satisfied with complete competency with the repair organization, approval of the proposed method of the design of the execution method of the materials and welding procedures. Examination testing must be approved by the inspector of the piping engineer as appropriate. Owner and user approval of the on-stream welding is required. Welding required or welding repairs with cracks incurred and service should not be attempted prior to consultation with the piping engineer in order to identify with the corrective of the cause of the cracking. Example of the cracks suspected being caused by the vibration thermal cycle, the thermal expansion problems, and environmental cracking. The inspector should approve of the repair alteration work design designated holding points after the repairs and alteration as satisfactorily completed in accordance with API 570. Alright, 8.1 welding repairs including on-stream. Temporary repairs. Temporary repairs including on-stream of the full encirclement of the weld of the split sleeve of the box type of the enclosure of the design of the piping engineer must be allowed over the damaged throat of the longitudinal cracks. Should not be repaired in this manner unless the piping engineer determined the cracks would not be expected to propagate with the under of the sleeve. In some case, the piping engineer will need to consult with the fracture analysis if the repair area is localized. For example, the pitting of the pinhole of the specified minimum yield strength of the pipe is not more than 40,000 psi gauge. The temporary repair must be made with the fitting fillet welding and properly with the design split coupling with the plate patch over the plated area of the section 823 for the design the consideration appendix C. For the example, the material for the repair should be made match the base metal unless approved with the piping engineer. The minor leak, the properly designed enclosure for the blade be welded over the leak while piping system and surface provided. The inspector must satisfy with the adequate thickness remaining with the vicinity of the welding of the pipe component withstanding the welding without likelihood of the further material damage and such for the cosmetic surface. The temporary repair should be removed. Place suitable permanent repair with the next available maintenance opportunity. Temporary repairs remain in place longer period of time and improve the document by the piping engineer. 8132 permanent repairs the defect with the final of the piping components that may be made with the preparing welding groove with completely remove the defect of the filling of the groove welded metal deposit accordance with A2. Corroded areas may be restored with the welded deposit accordance with the A2 surface. Irregularities, contamination should be removed before welding. Appropriate non-destructive examination should be applied with after completion of the weld. Feasible taking piping system out of surface of the defect of the area may be moved and cutting out cylindrical section, replacing it with a piping component that meets the applicable code. Insert patches, flush patches may be used to repair damage or corroded areas and following requirements are met with a full penetration groove of the belt. Welds are provided for Class 1, Class 2 piping systems. The welds should be 100% of the radiograph ultrasonic testing used on instructed examination procedures that are approved by the inspector. Patches may be any shape that should have the round corners 1 inch minimum radius. 814 non-welding repairs up on-stream. The temporary repairs locally thin section circumferential liner defects may be made on-stream. Installing properly designed fabricated bolt lead clamp. The design should include the control axle thruster loads and piping component being clamped may become insufficient to control the pressure thrust. The effective of the clamping crushing force of the component also should be considered. During turnarounds are the appropriate opportunity. Temporary leaking sealing leak dissipating devices include valves should be removed. The appropriate actions taken to restore original integrity of the piping system. The inspector of the piping engineer should be involved with determining the repair methods for the procedure. Procedure should include the leaking, sealing, fluids, pumping of the processor piping should be reviewed and acceptance for the inspector piping engineer. The piping engineer, the review should be taken into consideration compatible with the seal, with leaking material pumping pressure for the clamp, especially with the re-pump of the brisk, with the selecting of sealant affecting downstream flow meters, relief valve, with the machinery risk of the subsequent leak of the bolt threads corrosion, causing corrosion or stress corrosion, cracking with the bolts number of the times and seal air is pre-pumped. A2, welding and hot tapping. All repair alteration welding should be in accordance with the principles of the ASME 331.3 with the code to meet with the piping system was built, and welding conducted with the piping components of the operation done in accordance with the API publication 2201. The inspector should use the minimum suggested hot tap checklist contained in API publication 2201 for hot tapping of the piping components. A2, when procedure qualification record, the repair organization shall use the welders welding procedure qualified in accordance with the SMSE B313 with the code which the pipe was built. With the repair organization should maintain the records welding procedure, welding performance qualification. These records should be available to the inspector prior to the starting of the welding, preheating of the post-welding treatment, preheating temperature used making the welding repair with the accordance with the applicable code qualified with the welding procedures. Essentially, the temporary repairs must be approved with the piping engineering. Preheating not less than 300 degrees Fahrenheit must be considered with the alternate post-weld heat treatment, alteration, repairing piping system, initial post-weld treated code requirements seen note that they apply with the piping construction. In P1 seals listed for the ASME B313, P3 seals exemption of magnesium moly hardened steels also mean the receipt of the 300 degrees Fahrenheit minimum preheat alternative piping system operation temperature is high enough to provide reasonable toughness if there is no identifiable as associated with the pressure testing shutdown and startup. The inspector should determine the minimum preheating temperature measure to maintain after the welding joint should immediately be covered with the insulation slow cooling rate. Preheating may be considered an alternative to the conventional environmental crack prevention pipe system constructed with the seals and initially requiring post-weld heat treatment. Normally, post-weld treatment and alteration repairs involved with the pressure retaining welding and perform. The use of the preheating alternative requires consultation with the piping engineer with consider the potential environmental cracking, whether the welding procedure will provide adequate toughness. Example of the situation alternatives can be considered and included sealed welds, welded metal up within thin areas, welded support clips. Post-weld heat treatment. Post-weld heat treatment system repair alteration should be made with the applicable requirements of ASME B313 with the code for the piping was built. See Section 8221 for the alternative preheat with the procedures or some post-weld heat treatment requirements. For the temporary repairs must be approved with the piping engineer. Local post-weld heat treatment may be substituted with 360 degrees banding and local repairs on all materials provided, and the following precaution requirements are applied. Application reviewed and procedure developed with the piping engineer, evaluating suitable with the procedure for consideration given the acceptable factors such as the base metal thickness, the thickness gradients, material properties, change result in post-weld heat treatment, the need for the full penetration weld with the surface of all metric examination, post-weld heat treatment, in addition for the overall local strain and distortion result of the heating and localized restraint area of the piping wall should be considered to be developing evaluation post-weld heat treatment procedures. Preheating of the 300 degrees Fahrenheit or higher is specified with a specific welding procedures maintained while welding. Are required post-weld heat treatment. Temperature should be maintained with a distance not less than 2 times to the base of the metal thickness so measured with the weld. Post-weld heat temperature should be monitored with a suitable the number of the thermocouple to minimum of the two based on the side of the shape of the being heat treated. Controlled heat of the wood should be applied with aim of the branch for the connection and other attachment with the post-weld heat treatment area. With the post-weld heat treatment area with the perform of the code compliant with the non-environmental cracking resistance. 823 design. Butt joints should be full penetrated with the groove welds. Piping components should be replaced with a repair likely and adequate. New connection replacement should be designed, replicated in accordance with the principle of the applicable code of the design. Temperature enclosures should be approved with the piping engineer. New connections should be installed with the piping system, provided with the design location map with attachment conform with the principle of the applicable code. Fillet weld patch if it requires special design consideration special relating with the welding joint efficiency. Crevice with the corrosion. Fillet weld patches should be designed by piping engineer. The patch may include be applied external surface of the piping to provide with the accordance with the 813 with the means for either the following requirements. Proposed patch with the provided design strength with equivalent reinforced operating design accordance with the applicable code. Proposed patch design with the absorbent membrane strain of the part of the membrane is in accordance with the principle applicable code of the following criteria and are met the allowable membrane strength of not exceeding the primary part of the patch if the strain patch does not resolve with the fillet weld the stress exceeding allowable stress for each of the welds. The overlay with the patch shall have the rounding corners appendix C 824. The material of the making repair alteration should know the known weldable qualities conform with the applicable code and should be compatible with the original material for material verification requirement C58. Alright, 825, non-destructive examination. Acceptance of the welder repair alteration will include the non-destructive examination according to the applicable code with the owner user specification unless otherwise specified by the API 570. Pressure testing after welding complete with the pressure test in accordance with 570 should perform practical deemed necessary. By inspecting pressure test or anomaly repaired and alteration major repair with the pressure test is not necessarily particular practical non-destructive examination should utilize lube with the pressure test, substituting the special pressure with the pressure testing after alteration repair may be done only after the consultation with the inspector piping engineer, but it is not practical to perform pressure test with the final closure welding joint not be new replacement section with the piping existing system. The following requirements shall be satisfied: new replacement piping pressurized test and closed welder field penetration belt weld between weld and neck flange and standard piping component with the section of the pipe in an equal diameter and thickness with the exactly aligned with the non-miter cup with equivalent material with the actual acceptable melter and slip-on flanges design cases up to class 150 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit and socket welded flange, socket welded union size, nominal pipe size 2 or less, design classes up to 150 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Spacer designed for socket welding. Other means that should be within established 1/16 of the inch gap. Socket welds within shall be per ASME B31.3 with a minimum of 2 passes. Any final closure of the butt weld should be 100% of the radiographic quality angle beam with ultrasonic flow detection may be used to provide appropriate acceptance criteria that has been established. The magnet and particle magnetic testing on MT and PT shall be performed with the root pass completed with the butt welds uncompleted with the weld fill. So there's magnetic and particle test, re-rating and re-rating. Piping system chamber, the temperature rating of the maximal welding work pressure may be done only after the following requirements have been met. Calculation performed with the piping engineer or inspector. All re-ratings established in accordance with the requirements of the code of the piping system was built with the computation appropriate method for the last edition applicable code. Current inspection records verify that the piping system is satisfactorily proposed for the condition with the appropriate corrosion allowance is provided. Re-rated piping system should be leak tested in accordance with the code with the piping system was built or last tested latest edition of the Apple code, the new certificate condition, and then left the document records indicate that the previous leak test the perform greater than equal or test pressure for the new condition, increased rating of the temperature that does not affect the allowable tensile strength that does not require leak test. The piping system check with the firm of the required pressure relieving devices are present and are set with appropriate pressure for the approximate capacity of the set pressure. Piping system re-rating acceptable to the inspector, piping engineer. All piping components of the system, such as valves, flanges, bolts, gaskets, packing, expansion joints are adequate for the new combination pressure temperature. Piping flexibility is adequate to design temperature change, approximate engineering records, and updated increased minimum operation temperature justified by impact test results required by the applicable code. Chapter 9, inspection of buried pipe. Testing.